So, episode 7 of season 2 is called Pretty Much Dead Already. So, okay, I just have, it's not a huge issue, but in the beginning of the episode, so Glenn knows about the walkers in the barn at this point.
And Dale knows.
Yeah,
He
you
told
true, Dale, and so like, okay, so then he's like, Glenn's conflicted about what he should do, and he's sitting in the camp with everybody else, and he's like looking over at Herschel's house, and Maggie's standing on the porch, and like she's like looking at him and like shaking her head back and forth, telling him not to do it, and then Glenn looks over to Dale, and Dale's like nodding at him and looking at him and telling him to like come clean to everybody about it. And it's like, are you okay? That's just so obvious. It's such like an obvious, ridiculous way of like showing visually how Glenn is conflicted about what to do, and how these two are like telling him, like if they were just like perched on his shoulder, whispering on each shoulder, whispering into one of his ears, like that would have been the same level of subtlety. And I just wanted to note that it's a bit silly. Like, it's just like, okay, so but if this is real life, like really, like, no, okay, no one, like, Maggie's pretty far away, she's shaking her, like, can Glenn even really see her? And Dale's just like standing there nodding at him. Everyone else is right there. Nobody's like, "Hey Dale, who are you nodding to?
Right.
Like me? Like what?
Or like,
And,
how
yeah.
long has it been going on?
Yeah.
Like, how long have they been nodding and shaking their head? Like,
No, I agree.
So later on, Herschel's like telling Maggie, like, oh, we have to send them on their way. And Maggie's talking about like love thy neighbor and like the Christian thing to do. And she brings up that when she was 14, she was mad about her mom dying. And then when she was 14, she was mad about Herschel being remarried.
Yeah.
But as we discussed before, she was between like she was like 5 years old when they got pregnant with Beth.
Yeah.
There's I mean, maybe she was just like an angsty teenager that's like, I'm mad that my mom died when I was a baby and I don't remember it, and now I'm mad that he married someone else years after the fact. But or the writers just didn't really think about this when they were like writing that she was 14, because like if she was 14 when they got married, I guess it's possible that they had Beth like a long time ago and then got married 9 years later. I doubt that. I highly doubt that. But so if they didn't get married until she was 14, assuming they didn't have Beth already, then that would either mean that Beth is 8 years old or that Maggie is 30 years old. And neither of those are right. It's obvious, like, Glenn even said Maggie's only 22. So that would mean if they got married when she was 14, that Beth would only be 8 years old. And she's not. She's 16 years old. Yeah. So I think it was just, like, bad on the writers, like, figuring out what was actually plausible.
Yeah, it's really sloppy.
And
yeah.
Like, I get the other possibility is that Beth and Maggie have the same mom, but they don't look anything alike. And Wiki said that they have different mothers, which makes more sense. Like,
yeah.
they look nothing alike. They don't look like sisters at all. So it would make sense that they have different mothers.
Yeah. Yeah. So not a lot happens in this episode of consequence, but I just want to point out how pathetic Rick is. And I don't know if the show is intentionally, I mean, maybe kind of, but Rick is so disgustingly weak, like with regards to Herschel and his delusions about the walkers. Because, like, I mean, I get that he wants to stay on the farm and he's trying to, like, negotiate with Herschel, but this is just stupid. I mean, later, Shane's the only one doing the right thing. And Rick's just like being too accommodating. Herschel's probably like, I don't think Herschel would have let them stay regardless of how much Rick kissed his ass and like helped him corral walkers and stuff like that. I don't think Herschel would have cared. And it's just a bit silly. Like he goes out and helps what's his face Jimmy and Herschel like get some with like dog catcher poles out that they're stuck in the river, and he's like pulling them out and bringing them back to the barn. I don't know how they like didn't think that anyone would see that, um, like coming back. And so like yeah, so obviously it's gonna make everybody else mad. Dale is of course being a douchebag and an idiot and putting everyone in danger in this episode. Probably, I mean, I'm torn between saying that like when because he takes the bag of guns and he's gonna go like throw them away basically because, well, I mean, he's like vaguely afraid of Shane doing something, but
Yeah.
getting rid of those guns won't neuter Shane because Shane has his own pistol and there are several other guns that other characters have. So Dale wants to get rid of the guns, and I'm like torn between saying that that's the worst thing he ever did or what he does like in the next couple episodes. I won't say anything about that yet, but both of those are really just awful, awful things. And Dale is a terrible, terrible human being. Um, so Dale like tricks Glenn and runs off with the bag of guns. And instead of just burying them somewhere like a sensible person, so then they can go get them if they need them later on, he is going to take like an ordinary trash bag. Doesn't he? It's not even like a drawstring trash bag. And he's going to wrap the bag of guns in this trash bag and then toss them in this little like pool of water for some reason. Why? I don't know. I don't think he knows. I don't think he thinks about things ever. So, okay, you can't just put a garbage bag over the guns and like tie it shut. That's not going to be watertight. Like you can't just wrap them in an ordinary garbage bag and throw them under the water. And okay, you ruined them at that point. Like they're not retrievable, and I don't think Dale like thinks that. I think he's like, oh well, I can go get these at any point I want. Like, and it's like, no, you can't. You're just putting everyone in terrible, terrible danger, because he's jealous of Shane getting to bang Andrea. I mean, let's be honest. That's what's really going on here. That's the subtext and the supertext of what's going on here. Like, okay, so that's gonna ruin all of their long guns in the bag there. Okay, that's gonna put everybody in terrible danger.
It will,
on the like I don't know, maybe 10% chance that Herschel will give in and let them stay, because I mean that's like the flimsy excuse Dale is giving, like. He's like...
Well, we don't need these.
Yeah, he's like, stay. Herschel says he doesn't want guns, or, and it's like, so you're gonna, like, try to disarm everyone for the most part, like, as much as you can? I mean, I think if he could, like, drug everybody and, like, take the guns out of their pants, he would, He
probably would.
Like, he would, like, take everybody's guns if he could, just because he hates Shane so much. I mean, that's the real reason.
I like that.
Oh, what?
I can't remember if it's this episode or the next episode, but like Shane calls him out on his BS. He's
like how useless he is?
Yeah. He's like, he's talking about how useless he is.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you thought I was a danger, and you didn't do anything, and you didn't shoot me?
Like, says like, oh, you think you're so smart. You think you're like so wise because you're old, but you've done nothing for us.
Yeah. No, it's and so then Shane, Shane figures out what Dale's up to, and he goes and catches him, and he's like, you're a dumbass, and he's like, I'm the one doing everything to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
And so then Dale puts a gun in his chest when Dale's like, oh, you pointed a gun at Rick. That you're such a monster because you considered shooting Rick. Which, I mean, yeah, but... like, here you are, like, threatening an unarmed man with, and I was like, well, okay, I mean, anyway, so then, of course, Dale can't pull the trigger because he's weak and pathetic. And so then Shane just takes the guns back, which is the responsible thing to do. And let's see what happens after that.
So
I guess then they come back. Yeah, because then he comes back and he's got the bag.
Right,
yeah.
and that's when they see Rick bringing the walker in with like the dog catcher thing, and Shane kind of loses it, and he runs over to the barn and he like riles up all the walkers in the barn and opens the door, and they start coming out, and obviously like Shane, Glenn, T-Dog, and Andrea, and
I mean, like, Andrea's the first one to join him.
Is she? Okay. Oh, you're right. And Daryl.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he does. Yeah.
Because they have like that dramatic, like where he like fires the gun. And it's like a very dramatic scene. Like,
I think
with like the explosion off the gun.
And like, but I mean that is a bit silly. Like, I think what's just a note. I think what's really objectionable is when they close up on Andrea firing her gun, and it's like as obvious as possible that there's nothing being like she's not actually firing anything, because it's just like she's just standing there and there's like absolutely no recoil. It's just very obvious it's very obvious that they're just adding like the muzzle flare like effects. After the but it's just like she's not even trying to make it look like she's it's just like it's like really, really clear that there wasn't anything in that gun.
So like all the walkers come out and they all get shot.
They kind of display, like, even like the experienced ones like Shane kind of display an alarming lack of accuracy when they're shooting them. They're like, it takes like 4 shots for each walker to bring it down.
So that's like a lot. That's a lot of ammo. Yeah. And that's a lot of noise.
It is, yeah. That might have been a better, I mean, getting ahead a little bit, but like, how like the herd eventually finds the farm, and it's like, if that had attracted them, that might have, because then at least like from an overall like story where like, oh, Shane's supposed to be reckless, you could say like, okay, that was a bad idea because it did attract, and it's like, of course, but in the ultimate story, it's like, no, I guess none of them heard it. I mean,
because I was thinking about that while we were watching it, and I remember the herd coming, and I know there are like events that happened, but I'm trying to remember what like made the herd come, and I know we'll get there soon. But I was like, yeah, it really should be.
I mean, that would have made more sense, like if that had some kind of repercussion, but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And instead, it was just basically the right thing to do. Like, essentially, there was no downside to doing that.
Of course, like, Herschel's wife and his stepson are in here, and we actually read that.
There was something on the wiki about like, okay, so there was supposedly a cousin named Arnold Green,
right? And this is Andrea and not Andrea. I'm sorry, Beth and Maggie's cousin.
Yes. Supposedly one of the walkers in the barn, and it was like on the wiki, it's listed as one of their family members, and. But it was,
so it must have been. Sorry, so if he's a
okay.
Green, it must be Herschel's nephew.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking about if it was like their stepmom, but no, it must be Herschel's nephew.
Yeah. So on the wiki, like, it's listed as this character. It says that the actor who played the Walker said that he was hired to play this character, but then essentially like they just decided not to do that.
He was just going to be an ordinary walker.
And it's like, because they don't bury him or anything later, and like no one mentions this guy ever. So I think it's.
But he was.
I think it's just non-canon. Yes, but he was Herschel's son. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so he was just like Sean instead. Like, like the one in the show is Sean. So I guess it's just like, they just kind of like flipped it, like gave that Walker / character a different name some reason, Yeah. And so it's like, so they finish off all the walkers that come out of the barn. And
like Herschel and Maggie and Beth are all like grieving because their mother and brother-in-law, I guess. Or not brother. Dang it, why just stepbrother. And all of their neighbors and stuff that they had put in there. And then another walker starts walking out. And it's Sophia. and she's just like, she's walking towards them. She's walking towards Rick, and she's just very, very easily, very gracefully walking over all the dead walkers in front of her. She's not tripping over them or anything like that. Like, she has enough, like, awareness to know to step over the other ones, and that just doesn't seem to follow suit with later walkers.
Yeah, and so then they're like, oh no, Sophia.
And Carl's crying, and Lori's holding him and saying, like, don't look, but she doesn't cover his eyes or anything. And Carol sees Sophia and starts running towards Sophia, and Daryl catches her at the waist and, like, keeps her from going all the way to Sophia. But, like, if Daryl wasn't there, would anyone have stopped her? Probably not. She would have, like, run all the way up to Sophia and gotten bitten. And Rick goes up and shoots her in the head.
Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah, so I mean, because it's just like, okay, so if Rick had his fancy Rick way, and, like, everyone had just mindlessly gone along with him forever, like, how long would they look to... No, like, seriously, how long would they have looked for Sophia? Like, years?
They probably would have, yeah.
Like, in, like, the present, if any of them are still alive in, like, season 10, would they still be, like, looking for Sophia?
Probably.
And it's like, Rick, we're all dying of old age. We can't keep looking. Like, she's clearly not out here.
Right.
Like, clearly she's not here.
Right.
I just find it a bit, like... I don't know. I mean... I don't know. It's just, it's like, we're supposed to think that Shane's being, like, impulsive and, like, reckless, but really he's just doing the sensible thing. I mean, he's not doing anything wrong.
His knowledge from before the apocalypse to make, like, informed decisions, not just going off his emotions. Like,
yeah, well,
like,
and I mean, this is how, like, yeah. But I mean, and also this, it's just like... I don't know, and I was thinking about this. I mean, this is getting way ahead, but I was thinking about how, like, this episode contrasts with, like, when Rick's group ends up in Alexandria, and, like, how, like, Rick at that point, and the others are all like, oh, these people are so naive, they sicken me. I just want to vomit on all of them, you know, like they're like, oh, they're so weak and naive, and, you know,
and we can't let that happen.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, oh, so you admit that Shane was completely correct all along, and you guys were like, so, okay, so A, you admit that. B, I just think this episode does it a lot better because it's like, it just like conveys the same message, but, like, a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
About, like, how Herschel is just being delusional and weak, and Rick is just being a weak cuckold, and, I mean, that's, like, both literally and figuratively, because, like, Shane's, like, or he's, like, Rick tells Shane that Laurie's pregnant, and Shane's like, oh, boy, and he's like, congratulations, Rick, and Rick's like, thank you, and, like, walks away.
Yeah.
Because he's a cuckold. I mean, let's be honest here. That's what he is. And he's just, like, I don't know. I don't know if Rick is, like, just trying to, like, is he actually okay with being cuckolded or not? That's my question. What do you think?
I don't know. I think he changes a lot throughout, and he becomes
but right now, like, was he just lying to himself and Laurie when he said that he, like, was okay, like, he understood that Laurie immediately started banging Shane?
Yeah, I think
like, he was lying?
I think so.
I mean, I think so too.
He's just trying to, like, comfort himself, basically.
Yeah. So, and it's just like, and then he, like, so he's literally cuckolded, and then he figuratively cuckolds himself by, like, you know, bending over for Herschel every chance he gets. It's just, it's terrible. It's terrible stuff, really. Rick should be, you know, like, everyone else should have just been like, oh, Rick, you sicken us, really? I mean, you know... I don't know if we're supposed to, like, are we supposed to feel this way?
No,
Am I supposed to think that Rick is, like, so weak? No, I don't think so.
No, we're supposed to think that he's trying to be the family man, the provider, and taking care of everyone. And
I mean, like, I get that he is trying that, but that's, like, okay, but if you do everything wrong, I don't know if you get any credit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure that you can just say, like, well, I had good intentions. I mean, sure, I would have gotten everybody killed eventually, but, you know, I had good intentions, so, well, that's it, you know. Anyway, so that's pretty much where the episode ends.
So we did read that there's 2 versions of the last scene where
Yeah,
Sophia
the
comes
wiki
out.
makes that claim. We looked for it briefly. We couldn't find
No.
it, which, like, I mean, so that might not be true, or maybe it was just never released. Like, maybe it's just not available.
So, from my understanding, in this other
Yeah.
scene, the same thing happens where she comes out and they're all shocked that it's Sophia, and Rick goes up and kills her. But in this alternate scene, Sophia looks healthy. She doesn't look as, like, Walker.
I mean, supposedly she
Right.
would have looked like, because it said one version where she's like alive, like the characters want to see her. So, like, to me, that strongly suggests that it's like just, you know, like just normal, healthy, alive Sophia. And it's like, yeah, and then the one that they actually showed. And it's like, so, like, if this fantasy one, you know, where they like are like, oh, it's Sophia, like, I'm just curious, like, how would that have played out? Like, I mean, the sensible thing is, like, they see her alive at first, and then the camera shows her again, and she's actually a walker,
Right,
and then Rick
right.
shoots her, something like that. Because, like, otherwise, it's like, well, how would that have worked? Because, like, she would have been fine, but then,
Right,
like, Rick would have
there's-
just walked up and shot her in the head, or,
And
I
there's
mean,
no
who knows?
way that, like, she could have been in the barn with all these walkers and been totally fine. Like,
Oh, that's true. It wouldn't have made any sense.
No.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm curious about that. Like, the Walking Dead wiki makes that claim. Wikipedia doesn't say anything about it, and, like, a Google search doesn't seem to reveal anything about it. So, who knows? But it's interesting.
so episode 8 is Nebraska. Not a whole lot happens here either.
Not a ton.
So after, like, all of them are dead and everything, Beth runs over to what is her mom's body, which I would also like to add at the end of episode 7, there's a woman standing in a blue dress who's, like, kind of, like, motionless, and I really thought that was Beth, but then when Beth runs to her mom, she's wearing different clothes, and it ends up being that the woman that I thought was Beth is actually Patricia, which just goes to our, like, for our claim earlier that Beth and Patricia look too similar to not be related.
To be fair, you thought Dale was also
Okay,
Patricia.
okay.
No.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I saw
like...
someone walking up, and I was like, "Oh, who's not here? Patricia's not here. Is that Patricia?" And then
Okay.
they, like, zoomed in. I'm like, "Oh, that's Dale." I'm like, "Oops."
But, I mean, yes, they do look like Patricia and Beth look identical.
They really do.
Whoever casted them and didn't, like, wasn't trying to make that connection was an idiot.
So Beth runs over and, like, pulls one dead walker off of the body that's her mom's, and, like, flips her mom over and is crying, and then, like, her mom, like, is not dead. They didn't shoot her in the head, and, like, tries to bite
Or, like,
Beth.
got her in, like, the jaw, and yeah.
Right, but not, like, the part that would, like...
Well, and I mean, but that really, like, kind of, because it's like, okay, I mean, geez, if any trauma to the head is seemingly fine, like, you can just kind of tap them on the head with your finger. You know,
I
like,
mean, it's
like,
not
like,
that.
no, I mean, but, like, really, like, how hard would you have to punch one with your fist to bring one down?
I mean,
like,
I guess enough to hurt some part of the brain.
yeah, which, like, wouldn't require that much. Like a really good boxer could, like, gives, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you just give one essentially a concussion, that's enough. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's ridiculous, like, how easy it is to take them down. Like, and it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, being shot, because it was Daryl with his shotgun, being shot in, like, the head with buckshot, yeah, that's gonna give you a concussion. That should have killed her. Like, if we're going by these, like, anything goes, like, a feather, like, hit them with a feather hard enough, like, spit at them hard enough, like,
You know
fart
that.
on them hard enough, like, and they'll just, like, their heads will just explode, like, if, like, anything... You know I'm right.
No, none of that would have worked.
I'm saying
I know that they're inconsistent.
they're consistent
in their
in that it requires almost nothing to like bring one. Yeah. Because like really like Mike Tyson should be able to just like punch them in the face.
Mike Tyson, and they're not punching them.
But my point is that buckshot to the face is much stronger than Mike Tyson. That should have killed her.
Okay, I'm already saying that they're being inconsistent, though.
But I'm just saying that's stupid. It doesn't make sense that it would, like, okay, so Annette is the walker. That's Beth's mom. Should have been neutralized by Daryl shooting her, like, by the logic of walkers in the show, for the most part. Should have brought her down by being shot in the face, right? Even if it didn't necessarily penetrate her brain, because the force would have given her like a severe concussion. Like if someone gets shot in the face and it doesn't like necessarily hurt their brain, it's still gonna like seriously injure them. That's not, you're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. You know, like it's you don't just like get up and walk. Like you're gonna have at the very least like a severe concussion from that. Okay, so, like, she should have been neutralized by that. But then also, so then Beth goes up and, like, is like, oh, mom. And, like, and, you know, Annette has just, like, been, like, lying in wait. She's just been, like, she's just been playing possum, playing dead.
Until the humans came
which,
up.
of course, is not how they work.
They're not
like,
stealthy.
They don't think like that.
If she had gotten shot...
They don't play dead,
and wasn't dead. She should have just gotten up immediately.
Like if that didn't bring her down, then she would have just, you know, like after a few seconds, she would have just like gotten back up and kept coming forward. Yeah, it's like a very cheap kind of like, oh no, you know,
right?
And like zombies in some fiction do that, where they like play dead, but not really in The Walking Dead. Like they don't really like pretend. They don't really like just kind of stop. They're always kind of like ambling around doing something. Yeah, so that's a nitpick. But
so afterwards, Herschel and his family are going back into their house, and he's telling Rick, like, you guys have to get out like by the end of the day. Like, be off of my land. I'm serious. And they're on like his porch, and the front of his pants are wet in like this very noticeable arc shape, like pretty much from his like crotch down are
like mid thigh maybe.
Okay, you're right. Are like noticeably different color, and we would assume that's because he was in the water with Rick trying to get that walker out.
I mean, is that a type of pants that I'm not like? Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of like some style of pants where it's like dark. You know, like that,
especially because
like
it's only on the front. When he turns around to go in the house, it's not wet on the back at all. So or dark on the back at all. So that was kind of strange. Later, when Beth like has her episode and she's in the bed like unresponsive and everything, Rick finds a flask.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we do see like Herschel like going through his wife's stuff and like putting it in those boxes. And
you're right.
No, it's okay. Like he just has it in with his ties. So, I mean, like, I don't think they say... I guess it's, like, a reminder not to slip back into his alcoholism. Like, I mean,
Maggie says, like, he stopped drinking...
Yeah, the day I was born, I think. Yeah, I think that's what she says, yeah.
But then she said that this flask was his
dad's. It's like, I think some of these writers didn't really, like, establish some of these, like, details about Herschel's family, like... Because okay, like Maggie says, my grandfather gave Dad this flask when he died. Yeah, like I mean, she just says when, but yeah, like you know, like presumably, yeah, like before he, you know, like depending on how we want to interpret that. And in like just a few episodes ago, Herschel was saying to Rick, like, you know, I did not go see my father when he was dying. Like, I did not give him that honor because I hated him so much because he was so abusive and, you know, and it's like, okay, I mean, it seems a little weird. Like, this whole, like, timeline seems
if you
kind
guys
of
were,
weird.
Like, on such outs that you wouldn't even go see him when he's dying, why would his dad give him a flask?
Yeah,
and
why would he keep it? Why would he want it? Because, like, Herschel was still... Because, like, presumably he was using it. It wasn't always... like a reminder. Like it wasn't, you know, like because he was an alcoholic
before Maggie.
Like when he was married to his first wife, like living on the farm before Maggie was born.
Right.
And so it's like, so like why would he like you would think if Herschel was like, you know, drunk and like he would just be like, screw you, Dad, I don't want your, you know, your filthy flask, and just like throw it at a cow or something, you know? Like you'd think he just, I mean, like I can't reason away that there's like that he would keep it, I guess. It just doesn't really seem to make sense, like at that point. Like even just saying like, okay, I mean, let's say for the sake of argument that his dad like left it to him or something, you know, like even if Herschel didn't like go to his deathbed, or, you know, like somebody was like Herschel's mom or whoever was like, your dad wanted you to have the, you know,
he wouldn't have kept it.
And it's
or it would have been like boxed up and like in the attic for like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Yeah. And
so it doesn't make sense.
And this is very similar to like the, like, wait, how old was Maggie when Herschel got remarried kind of a thing, where it's like, I think some of these different writers didn't communicate this stuff.
Right.
And I think they were just like, oh wait, like I think like the one who said the thing about Maggie being 14 maybe was just assuming that like Maggie and Beth came from the same mother or something like that, like where it's just like, oh wait, what, is that not supposed to be the?
Is there has there been anything to indicate that like Beth is not actually Herschel's, that she's like a stepdaughter, kind of like Sean was a stepson? And
no.
Maggie and Beth aren't blood related? No,
there's nothing to indicate that.
Okay.
I mean, not that it's the most reliable, but like the wiki does say that she's like Herschel's offspring. Okay. It said that, I mean, according to the wiki, and like who knows where they're getting this information, but it said that Annette had Sean like he was a baby when she married Herschel. And then she got pregnant with Beth like somewhat soon after that. So like for whatever that's worth.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
And then the last point from this episode is that Dale is saying that he thinks that Shane killed Otis. And is it Andrea who's like, Otis was killed by walkers? Who is he talking to?
I think it was Lori or was it Andrea? It might have been Andrea. Maybe it was Andrea. I don't remember. Yeah, it was one of those two.
So Dale is saying, like, I think Shane killed Otis, and whoever he's talking to, one of the females, is like, no, Otis was killed by walkers. And Dale's claim is that Otis couldn't have been killed by walkers.
Yeah, he knew how to handle them.
He knew how to handle it. Yeah. And that logic just doesn't make any sense at all. Like, he was taking one walker at a time to the barn.
On a pole.
Right, on a pole where they were, like, properly distanced away from him. He wasn't swarmed by them. Yeah. He probably wasn't having to run from them.
Exactly. He could probably, like, keep his own pace.
Jimmy ran into Herschel and was like, it happened again. Where,
so, like, Jimmy was probably helping, or, I mean, maybe
but,
helping,
like, he's saying that, like, one of the walkers was, like, caught in
stuck,
the swamp. Like,
because, like, I think that's probably how Otis, like, got most of them. Was, like, they were stuck or something, you know?
So he's not running away from them. He's not fighting them.
It's not like he has to,
Right.
It's not like he has to really do much, you know, other than just, like, get them and drag them back. Yeah.
So just, again, Dale thinks he knows everything, and obviously he doesn't think a lot of things through.
Yeah, I don't think so, yeah. No. So let's just briefly talk about, like, when they're in the bar and, like, they meet, like, the douchebags from New Jersey, I think. Like, yeah. And, of course, they're, like, hyper douchebags. Like,
they are super douchebaggy.
Yeah. So let's see. Those two, like, are dumb. I mean, because, like, the skinny douchebag, like, seems, like, somewhat intelligent. Like, he's, like, trying to, like, trick them into thinking that they're okay. And, like, being like, hey, where's your, you know... Like, you guys must be on a farm, like,
right?
And blah blah blah.
He's kind of cunning,
like. Yeah, he's like, he has a little bit of like low cunning, like. But at the same time, they're being really dumb about it.
Well, they're trying to like instill this idea of like, oh, you can trust us. Oh, we're your friends. But they're doing an absolutely horrible job of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, you got any girls? Like, yeah, it's like, sure.
Yeah,
You guys
we're
don't
not-
seem like,
You can't take
hugely
in-
suspicious at all.
You can't take in a couple more. I thought we were friends.
Yeah,
Like, no, they're just, and Rick ends up killing them.
Right.
Which,
And then these are the first human beings that
Yes,
he's killed.
the
The
first
first of many,
humans.
many.
because later on when he meets people, he asks a couple questions to see if they're like trustworthy or not. And one of them is like, how many walkers have you killed? And of course, like, no one's going to know the answer to that.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, how many humans have you killed? And then why?
Yeah.
And so we started keeping track to see how many humans Rick has killed. Because, like, if he's looking for a low number, he wouldn't make his own
it's kind of
criteria.
hypocritical. It's like, I mean, I don't remember what we got to, but it's like 100, or maybe not 100.
No,
but
no.
Well, how many is it?
We got to 32.
Oh, okay. That's so weird. It really seems like it's more than
Yeah.
that. But still, yeah.
But so Dave and Tony are the two
Yeah.
from the bar with Herschel and Glenn in this episode 8, season 2, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And so these are the first two
Yep.
documented human killings of Rick Grimes.
Yep.